fellow mythology geeks. We're Greek myth. I'm Arne and this is my assistant, Noor.
Dude.
Yeah, she can't stand that, but she is. So today we are going to be turned to ashes. Yeah, but I would like to finish the video first. It would be rather unfortunate if we can't finish our first one.
Anyway, before we get into it properly, nice and deep, we would like to introduce you to our sponsors for today. There's not one, there's not two, there's not three, there's 14. I know, high class channel, am I right? Many would argue that there are 12 since there is 12 Olympians, but we do not agree. Reason why? We are nice and we count Hades and Hestia as actual Olympians.
They deserve the attention too,
They're Olympians. They all need attention
Yeah.
and deserve it. True. So anyway, here's the introduction.
On the left, we have our dark overlord. He might be my favorite. It's Hades.
It's not even a might.
Shut up. It's Hades. He's the king of the underworld and the ruler of the dead. My favorite. Then, on the other side, we have Zeus, the king of the gods and the ruler of all that is the sky. He is known for screwing around and generally messing with people.
To the left of these set of pictures, you will find Lady Demeter holding some corn because, you guessed it, she is the goddess of agriculture. And to the right, with a bit of a devilish look on her face, we find Lady Hera, who is sometimes nice, I guess, but most of the time she'll screw you over if you're a kid of Zeus.
She is the devil she looks like in the picture. Next up we have Hestia. She's the sweet grandmother we all have. She guards the heart, she cares about her family. She's just to get the general good stuff,
She just loves everybody.
Yeah, indeed. On the other side, kind of the polar opposite, we have Poseidon. He is not really kind to everybody. He is most in the sea and known for creating horses, shaking the earth and messing with Odysseus. Next up we have
My personal favorite, Athena, who is pretty much everything I aspire to be in life.
who's biased now.
Shut up. Anyway, she's beautiful. She's a shield, a spear, an owl. I mean, who doesn't want that? And she has a city. Come on, guys. Athens. We love it. Anyway, she's a goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. Also a bunch of other things, but if I list them all, I'll be too biased and we'll still be here tomorrow. To the right, we have Ares, the god of war, bloodlust, and violence. Dun dun dun. He is incredibly dangerous, so please watch out if you encounter him.
Also, why do the Greeks need two gods of war?
Because one is smart and the other is just hacking away with his sword, probably.
And why do you need the hacking away with the sword then?
Because they're ancient Greeks.
Fair. Next we have the twins, Apollo and Artemis. They're twins but not similar at all. Apollo, being the literal ray of sunshine he is very full of himself and the god of quite a lot of stuff. He's the god of music, art, poetry, plague. Yeah, I don't know why, but plague.
Someone really just said, hey, we need a god of plagues, and just picked Apollo.
Probably. Artemis is the goddess of the moon. She is always active at night, hunting on monsters and men with a pack of wild women. So, yeah, I have that looking forward to. Next up,
We have to the left our beautiful blacksmith god. Don't be too harsh on him, guys. We love him. He makes sure all weapons are ready.
we didn't choose for him to get thrown off Mount Olympus.
Exactly. Shame on you, Hera. Anyway, he's a super nice dude. Make sure everyone's weapons are prepped, shields are polished, and armor shines. And he is a god of blacksmiths and forges. And to the right, our drunken baby, Dionysus. Can we just say, we love this picture. We adore it. It just perfectly describes him and who he is, and basically what he does.
Last but not least, we have she's gorgeous, she's beautiful, she's horny. It's Aphrodite. No more explanation needed. And then the last one is Hermes. He's the messenger of the gods, and of the gods, not god, gods. And he is the god of everything the other 13 aren't. To name a couple, he is the god of bandits, travelers, thieves. That's kind of bandits, but generally everything that comes across on the road, except horses. They are from Poseidon.
Poseidon really said, I claim these.
Yeah, most likely. So, before we get blasted, some last things. This is all our own opinion, so don't judge us too harsh. And if you have another opinion, please let us know in the Discord server or the comments down below. Also, all the topics are coming from our own beautiful yet horrifying minds. Let's get into it, shall we?
The first tier we'll be starting with is most unforgiving, and we'll be going from least likely to most likely. So we start down under with Hestia, and we get a little preview there, but let's not act on it. F. Hestia. She is, let's be honest, she is such a sweetie. She would bring cookies to people that are being rude to her and just be like, oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, but here are cookies, enjoy them. While the other person probably did something wrong. Anyway, Hestia is incredibly forgiving. At E, we have Hermes. Now we imagine he'd be a little, like a tiny bit more forgiving than Hestia.
Being the prankster he is.
He would just, yeah, he's a prankster. Let's just keep it on that. At D, we have Aries. He'd be a bit more forgiving than the other two, although I assume you could also place him with Hermes, but he's quite unforgivable because he's, after all, the god of war and he just likes bloodlust. At C, we have Hephaestus. Let's be honest. He has been holding a grudge since forever. Joining him is Hades and Aphrodite. Aphrodite has been known to, unleash wars, so I imagine she's quite unforgivable. And or unforgiving, I'm sorry, unforgivable. Probably too if she started a war, but... And then we have Hades, who we imagine is also quite unforgiving because he gives little punishments. Then at B, we have Apollo and Poseidon, and lastly, Demeter. Now we imagine they'd be less forgiving as well. There are also myths portraying them being quite unforgiving as well. And at A, almost at the top, is Zeus, Dionysus, Artemis, and Athena. Now, again, myths of them being unreasonable with people and just beating them, hurting them, and changing them into things, I'd say that's quite unforgiving from them. And at the very top, I think there are dozens and dozens and dozens of demigods who are proof that Hera is incredibly unforgiving, you know, them being children of Zeus and all, which she naturally doesn't like. I mean, if my husband cheated, I wouldn't like it either, but I would not hurt them kids.
You also wouldn't have a husband.
Fair point.
Next tier list we have most valuable asset in battle. On the F tier we have Aphrodite. Just imagine her going to war for a second. No, you can't. She would be at the mirror all day, don't caring about anything. At E we have Demeter. She's too busy cooking food to actually care, but
Or working on the land because she's a goddess of agriculture and all that.
yeah, she would be too busy to go to war with the others. But when really, really, really needed, she would go. At D we have Hermes, Hestia and Hera. Hermes is needed to bring messengers between the troops and the both camps. Hera is just angry all the time, so she would make a great asset if she would go to battle.
We'd like to note that indeed, if she acts on that anger and actually uses it to like fight properly, she would most likely be higher ranked. But because she doesn't really join in on wars and all that stuff, she's ranked quite a bit lower.
Last we have Hestia. We all know she would never go to war, but if she does, she would just burn everything in her path. So yeah, she would be a blazing tornado laying everything into ashes.
Imagine the sun to Icarus. That's what Hestia would be to a battlefield.
Indeed, but she wouldn't fight, so we're blessed. Next up we have in the C tier Hephaestus. He wouldn't fight himself, he would send some robots to do his bidding, like the Colossus of Rhodos. He would send him or some other machinery to do the fight for him. He wouldn't really fight himself, but it would be valuable though. At B tier we have Artemis, Apollo and Dionysus. Artemis and Apollo would be the archers of the group and just be a long range troop to shoot everything down in their path. Dionysus would make people so mad they fight their own allies. So really valuable in battle as well, if you ask me. At the A tier we have Zeus, Poseidon and Hades. The big three. They are the three most powerful gods if it comes to abilities. Lightning storms, floods and just bringing death, I guess. Also commanding the dead is a really nice power. Then at the S tier we have Athena and Ares. Who else? They are the war gods after all. Strategy and just brute force going hand in hand in battle.
Next on our tier list is tier 3, which is most caring about humans. All the way down below, as low as you can get, in tier F, we find Hades and Artemis. Now the two of them are literally living in the woods or in the underworld as far from humans as possible. So I think that really says it all, that they don't care about humans at all. At E, we have Demeter and Hephaestus. I'd imagine, Demeter would care a tiny, tiny bit, but again, not that much. I mean, she'd literally let the earth die and not care about all the lives that are being lost, if only to find her daughter. And Hephaestus spends most of his time in his forges, just shying away from everyone. So I don't think he'd really be that caring about humans. Then at D, we find Zeus and Hera. The reason they would care a little is mainly because of their own image and worship, I guess, and not so much for the humans themselves. So that's why they're ranked a little bit higher, but essentially they could also be part of E and F because they don't care about the lives they mess up if, you know, their tragic love story has another episode. Then at C we find Ares, Athena, Aphrodite, and Poseidon. Now I'd imagine they'd all be a little bit in the middle because they like to either mess with them or advise them. But also they just wouldn't really care what happens to them, I guess, if they do give them that advice. Or Athena, for example, would be like, hey, I gave you advice, but then just like see what you just find out for yourself what you do with that advice, and wouldn't really care about the result. Then at B we find Hermes and Dionysus. We think they'd care quite a bit more than the others, like they're a party god and a messenger, and the messenger would like spend quite a lot of time in the mortal world as well, being also god of thieves and travelers and all that. So I'd imagine he'd use the roads quite a lot and meet a lot of people. For Dionysus, he's a party god. I mean, really, he needs that. He needs those people at his parties, his scene of worship. Then, almost at the top, tier A, we find Apollo. He would care a lot for those mortals because he wants them to adore him. He wants them to become part of him almost, I guess. And just overall, he would care about their drama because that's just what kind of god he is. He creates that drama and then wants to see how it ends. And then ultimately at the top is Hestia, because she cares about everyone, even us puny mortals, and she wants the best for us and our families, and she just wants us to be safe and happy.
Next up we have most narcissistic. We start with Hephaestus and Hades. They just don't care at all what the mortals think about them. If they both don't see mortals either. Hades only sees dead ones and they fear him, so that doesn't matter. And Hephaestus just doesn't see any mortals at all. So why would he look good or care about himself if there's nobody to see it at all? Next we have Hestia and Artemis. Artemis, again being the loner she is, just doesn't feel the need to be narcissistic. She cares just a tiny little bit because of her huntresses, but that's all. Hestia as well is so beloved by everyone that she doesn't need to worry to be judged or be looked at weirdly, so she also doesn't care, she's loved anyway. At D we have Ares and Hermes. In war things get messy and you don't always have time to look after yourself. So Ares embodies that and doesn't care about his look, and therefore doesn't care about his look. Then Hermes is the messenger god. He sees a lot of people and really doesn't have much time on his hand to care about his image. He's too busy seeking out mortals and helping them, talking with them, to care about how he looks. At C we have Demeter and Poseidon. They care enough to never look bad or never get not a, what am I saying? They care enough to never. To never mess up they care enough to never mess up in front of the other gods or mortals, because they want to look good in their eyes, but when they are on their own they don't really care at all. If Poseidon is at the bottom of the ocean, there's nobody but a few fish to judge him, so he also doesn't care that much. At B we have Zeus, Athena, and Dionysus. Zeus and Athena, father and daughter, both really caring about their image. Zeus wants those offerings of the humans, so he wants to look good to them. Also, he isn't good to them, but he wants to be, so he gets all those offerings. Athena as well wants to be appreciated really, really bad.
And not only just by mortals, she also just really tries her best, I'd imagine, to impress Zeus and just overall be the perfect daughter, really.
Then we have Dionysus. Who wants to look bad on a party? Nobody. He always gets dressed well when he starts, and how he ends we won't talk about that, but he wants to look good when the party starts. Then A, we have Aphrodite and Hera. Aphrodite, being the beauty queen she is, she always wants to look good for the potential paparazzi or cameras being pointed at her. Hera also wants to be the queen of the gods herself, pure goodness.
She is the queen of the gods, but that's where it stops.
Yeah, she is quite the devil, if you ask me. But she wants to be portrayed as the lovable goddess she wants to be. Then, the S tier, we have Apollo, the literal sun. Everything orbits around him. He is the center of the universe, if you want. So that says enough about his personality, I think.
For our fifth tier list, we chose most likely to have a pet. At F, I'm sorry to disappoint, no one takes up the space. Because we think, even though it's very unlikely, all Olympians would choose to live with a pet. At E, we find ourselves Hephaestus. Now, the reason we put him all the way down there is because he wouldn't really have a physical, I mean, it would be physical, but just not a literal animal of flesh and blood, but rather an automatic one he created himself. And just, just something he made himself. At D, we find back Demeter and Zeus. Although I think it's unlikely they'd have a pet, they would have an organic animal. I'd imagine if Zeus were to have a pet, he'd have an eagle sitting around on his shoulder. But since he's the king of the gods, he wouldn't really have the time for it either, I think. And as for Demeter, I'd imagine it would be some farm animal, but again, constantly busy. Seeing as on a farm, one is always working, so she wouldn't really have time for a pet, I think. Then at C, we find back Aphrodite, Ares, and Hera. Now, we couldn't really decide whether or not these three gods would actually have pets, but in Disney's Hercules, Ares actually has two gods of war, which I think is a Ares has actually two dogs of war, which I think is a great concept, but I'm not sure if they would actually be a thing, seeing as it's constantly going to battle, and those animals, poor animals, would constantly be alone. Kira, I don't think would have a pet, but then again, I can't really tell because I don't know, something about her eludes me, and the same goes for Aphrodite. At B, we find Dionysus, Apollo, Hermes, Athena, and Hades. Now, 2 of them are actually portrayed with pets here, so I think it's quite obvious they'd have one. I'd say Dionysus picks up a pet somewhere at a party and just starts taking it home and treats it as his own, and wouldn't really mind spending time with it. Apollo would adopt a pet, but mostly for his own credibility, so he would look cuter with a puppy or something like that. So he would have one, but for kind of the wrong reasons. Hermes would also have a pet, but I'd imagine it would be more of a companion on his long trips for messages or traveling or whatever. At A, we find Hestia and Poseidon. Now the 2 of them are very likely to have a pet, I think, especially Hestia, who I can see at a fire cuddling a little kitten or hugging a doggy. Just in general, petting an animal while sitting at the fire and just making it cozy for herself and the animal. Poseidon, we all know he would adore horses or fishes or whatever, and would have them everywhere around him, as close as possible and as much as possible. And at the top, she literally lives with animals and hunts over them as well, but I'd say Artemis is very likely to adopt a pet wolf or a hunting dog or something like that, because they'd always be joining her on hunting trips and she would just love the hell out of that animal.
Then, the last tier list. Who of the gods is most likely to blow us into smithereens? Last, we have Hestia. She is just too sweet to harm us. We might upset her, but again, she would just forgive us. At E, there is nobody. In the D tier, again, nobody. C tier is empty space as well. B is no soul to be found. A, still no gods here. And then the S tier, we have all of them. Hera, Zeus, Aphrodite, Apollo, Hermes, Artemis, Hephaestus, Dionysus, Poseidon, Athena, Ares, Demeter, and Hades. Those are all the gods we most likely have upset with this video. Please help us, we need it.
Pray for us, guys. Thank you. So that's it for the tier list, you guys. I know, rather short, but let's be honest. We don't have a lot of time.
And shorter is sweeter, we all know that.
Exactly. So if you like this video, leave a like. That thumbs up button, it turns a beautiful blue color, I promise you. And there's this huge red button. Gorgeous!
Yeah, you can't miss it, really.
Exactly. So press it, and Athena will love you for making it gray. And then there appears this beautiful bell. And if you click that, you'll be notified of any, well,
new videos.
new videos, and us, you know, making a fool out of ourselves because we suck at making videos. But we're all fine with that. It's for your entertainment purposes. So, thank you guys for watching, and keep on Greeking.
Hey, you remembered the tagline.
For once.
Hi fellow mythology geeks, you're watching Greek Myth. I'm Arne, and this is my assistant, Noor. Yes, assistant, you heard it right. So, we would like to introduce you to our channel, and that's the wrong video. Fuck. Wauw, ik ga de micro qua stiller, want die zit constant in dat rood.
Yeah.
There was an attempt made, you guys. We honestly tried.
We kind of failed. Oops.
Yeah, guys, we tried to do this video, but it didn't work out that well. So yeah.